Hi, I'm Dave Taylor. We're here at Alliance Open House. We're here with Will Schick from Privateer Press. Will's going to run us through a game of Monsterpocalypse.
Yeah. So this is our new game. It comes out this month, actually.
Oh, great.
We previewed it at Gen Con.
Yeah.
It's basically a giant kaiju monster smashing game where you set up this interactive cityscape. You bring in your monsters that you've assembled and painted because they're hobby miniatures, and then you smash the city apart as you try to destroy each other.
It sounds fantastic.
It is
every part of that.
I know
it's
basically
perfect.
the 7-year-old like watching Saturday morning kaiju movies dream, right?
Yeah.
Do I want to pilot a robot? Do I want to be a big stompy monster? You have all the options.
Excellent. That's cool.
So the goal here today is I'm just going to kind of run you through the basics of the game. We're going to kind of show how different attacks and stuff work. I'm going to kind of guide you through where we want to go. I'm not going to have you make the best decisions, but we're going to have decisions that are going to lead to really cool things,
Radio.
so that people at home can kind of get a great idea of how the game plays.
That sounds perfect. We've got a one of the starter sets here. I bet actually we're probably best to come back to this. After the demo.
We'll hop back. We'll hop back.
Cool.
All right, sounds
We'll do
great. So Monsterpocalypse is effectively a game where you take a giant monster or two or three. You take a collection of units which support the monster. And you play a big miniatures battle over this interactive map.
Okay.
At the start of the game, you build a city using buildings from your collection. We have a bunch of apartment buildings that come in the two-player starters, or the single-player starters, excuse me. This is effectively what would happen if you both had a one-player starter. This is the game we're going to play. So if you picked up a starter set, I picked up a starter set, this is exactly the experience that we would have on the table.
Right.
The big thing with Monsterpocalypse is the dice. The dice kind of drive all of the action.
Okay.
So you see we have all these different colored dice. Yep. We have white dice, which are the action dice. These are the dice you're going to spend throughout your turns to do various things like attack, to spawn units, potentially to do some unit actions. These things drive everything in the game. They're your primary resource.
Okay.
As you spend these dice, you'll notice we have two different pools on the map. We have a monster pool and a unit pool. Right. On your turn, you're not going to do everything with all of your models. Instead, you're going to have to choose, do I want to activate my monster or do I want to activate all my units?
Okay.
When you choose that, you have to make sure that you actually have action dice in your pool to be able to do that. So the game starts with all 10 dice in the unit pool. That means that obviously you can't choose to take a monster turn at the start of the game.
Right, okay.
However, as the game progresses, you can totally leave dice in both pools as you start to spend and take your turns. And that gives you flexibility during the game to be able to react to what your opponent's doing or maybe to set up some kind of combos. And understanding and learning that is kind of part of the deeper strategy of the game.
Okay, so as we're playing, when I spend them from the unit, they get moved.
They
to the
just
monster
move
pool.
to the monster pool. You
And
set
when I
them
spend
down.
from
Yep, and they slide right
there,
back.
Okay, right.
Yep, and so you'll always have 10 dice to play with. How they're distributed, is going to be up to you and how you play in the game.
Right. Okay.
We then have these blue dice. These are called boost dice. These are effectively free dice, and they represent units being good at something or monsters being good at something. So they're typically used for attacks. When you make an attack, you get a number of blue dice for free based on your stats, and we'll talk about how the stats work too. The more blue dice you get, obviously, the better you are at something.
Okay.
And then last but not least, we have the red dice. These are the power dice. So these are kind of the workhorse for the monster in the game. You want to spend your unit turns working to build as much power as you can for your monster in his turn. Because only monsters can spend these dice, but when they do, they can spend as many as they want for an attack. And one of the things we'll talk about is probability. So the red dice have the best chance to hit. They only have one blank side.
Okay. Right. Yep.
All right?
Yep.
The blue dice have 2 blank sides, so they're pretty good. And the white dice are absolute garbage. They have 3 blank sides.
Right.
So there's a lot of people who argue with me in the office, and they'll be like, well, if you throw 2 white dice, you get to roll 1 strike. I'm like, if you roll 4 white dice, you're still probably not going to roll a strike. Like, that's just the way you should look at it.
Sure.
They're very important, but they're not important for hitting things.
Right. Okay.
As you build power dice, as you earn power dice, they go into your power pool. You can only ever have 10 power dice in your power pool at max. But again, these are going to be really important because they're going to allow you to do all the cool things in the game, like body slam, throw the enemy monster. They give you a much higher probability of hitting on your attacks.
Okay.
So generating those power dice becomes one of the big things to make your resources count the most.
And I'm guessing, unlike moving back and forth, once you spend them, they're gone for that turn.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So when you spend them, they start in your dice pool. Effectively, this is kind of your out-of-play dice. When you earn them, they go to your power pool. When you spend them, they go right back to your dice well, and then you can pull them back in as you earn them back from different abilities and effects.
Right. Cool.
So every model comes with a stat card. We'll see if we can get this on the screen as we talk about it without a glare. Each stat card has the model speed. This is how many squares it can move on the map. Its defense, this is how hard it is to hit. In Monsterpocalypse, you simply roll your dice, you add up your number of explosion sides. If you equal or beat the defense, you do 1 point of damage to the target.
Right.
And then it lists the attack stats for each of the models. So you have your brawl stat, which is your punches, your headbutts, your bites, running things over with your tank treads. So you have your blast. This is, of course, your missiles, your lasers, your alien acid, all the good stuff that comes at range. And then last but not least, every monster has a power stat. And what this is those are those big body slams, throws, headbutts, the really cool stuff that only monsters can do.
Okay.
So you'll notice on the unit cards, none of them have a power stat. That's because they can't make those attacks.
Yep.
We'll talk a bit more about how those things function once we get into the actual game.
Sure thing.
But everything that you need for a model is listed on its card. Every model also has a certain amount of special rules. Those are listed in a box. These are their capabilities, what they can do that makes them unique.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and just jump right in and start moving and spawning units and getting things going. Let's get this pristine city a little destroyed.
Sounds
so we're going to have the Defenders player go first.
Okay.
In Monsterpocalypse, there are effectively two sides to the battle. There are the Defenders, which are known as the Protectors, and their goal is to save the world. So this is your giant human-powered, human-piloted robots like the Guard, which is what you're playing.
Yep.
They're like mecha ninjas called the Shadow Sun Syndicate, which is effectively this global organization that's privatized world peace a little bit, and so they have their own agenda. They're interested in saving the world, but maybe not just for the good of humanity. There's a little profit to be made too.
Sure.
And then last but not least, the giant dinosaurs, the Pterosaur faction. These guys,
they
live on Earth. They don't want to see Earth destroyed or taken over by Martians or anything. So they're willing to help out, but if they eat a few apartment tenants along the way, that's just nature, right?
It's the price of
exactly. So those three factions work together to save the Earth.
Okay.
And when you build your army, when you start jumping into the full game, you can take any models from any of those factions, and you can just mix and match them however you want.
Great. Okay.
Because all that matters is that you are a good guy.
Right.
You have chosen to play the good guys.
Yep.
On the other side, we have the Destroyers. So these are the guys who have come, and they either want to enslave humanity, they want to corrupt the world to their own purposes, or they want to just completely destroy it and eat it up.
Right.
The Planet Eaters are what I'm playing with right now. These guys, their name says it all. They've come to just consume the world, and then they'll move on once it's gone.
Sure.
They just gorge themselves on organic matter. Once it's gone, they go to the next world.
Okay.
You have the Lords of Thule. These are like our eldritch, nether dimension creatures, lots of tentacles. They come out. They want to enslave humanity. They have a bunch of nefarious purposes. They come from an alternate dimension. They're very yucky and probably very greasy.
Right.
And then last but not least, we have the Martians. So the Martian menace. They've come from Mars. They need our resources. They're basically looking to tap into all of our goods, take them back to their home planet, and reinvigorate their society.
Okay.
So your flying saucers, your big tripod walkers, all that good stuff from the classic 1950s sci-fi era. Again, if you're playing Destroyers, you can mix and match any of that stuff that you want.
Yep.
So there's a lot of freedom to make your own super-powered monster group.
Yep.
And it's a lot of fun because you don't have to worry about, well, I like dinosaurs, but I also like big robots. It's like, we'll just smash those two together and make a peanut butter sandwich. You got it.
Awesome.
You got it going.
Because they each have the factions have the different motives. Is there the potential for conflict?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you can certainly play protectors versus protectors, destroyers versus destroyers. It's not that every game has to be good guys versus bad guys, right?
Oh, okay, right.
There are certain special rules, although they're limited, that only work within a faction itself. And this kind of represents like a monster being more influential over its units than everyone else's. Right. But a lot of stuff in the game, because we really wanted that diversity to be very present, works everywhere. So like the Shadow Sun has the ability to teleport things. They can teleport a dinosaur. They can teleport a tank. They can teleport one of their own guys. It doesn't really matter.
Right. Okay.
Because you want that flexibility when you're playing.
Sure. Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and start. You're going to go ahead and take the first turn.
Okay.
We're going to do a unit turn because we have no dice in our monster pool.
Okay.
So we're going to start by spawning. Every unit has a spawn cost. It's listed at the bottom of their card in cost.
Okay.
Most costs are 1. There are a few 2s. Sometimes they go up to 3.
Right.
Effectively, what we're going to do is we're going to grab a tank, and we're going to use these red spawn gates here to spawn our units. When units are destroyed, they simply go off the table, and then you can spawn them back on your unit turn.
Okay.
They never go away.
Right.
There's always more tanks underground in the little factories to be spit out, or more monsters coming through.
Cool. And of course, it just costs you another die.
It just costs you a die, yep.
Right, okay.
So the first thing you do on a unit turn is you spawn your units.
Right.
So we're going to do that. So we're going to have move 1 action die to our monster side, and we're going to put a G-Tank right here.
Okay.
We're going to do that 3 more times.
Okay.
And we're going to put 2 of our G-Tanks. We're going to do 1 right here.
Okay.
And then 1 right here. And then that next G-Tank costs 2. So we're not going to do him yet. We're going to do the little truck. The repair truck costs 1, and we're going to put him right here.
Okay.
And then last but not least, we're going to move 2 dice over to spawn our elite. Now, one of the things is that you'll notice you still have a free spawn zone. But
Yep.
a lot of the times, because you can play with up to 15 units in a single monster game, 20 in a two-monster game, you may wind up in a point where you don't have a spawn gate available. Or you may wind up where this is in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, I don't really want to put my tank there. He's not going to be useful to me there.
Sure.
So you can do what's called a push. This means that you can take any unit that's on a spawn gate that you control, and you can bump it one space in any direction off of the spawn gate. So we're going to go ahead and spend one more, and we're going to bump this guy off.
Okay. There we go.
Yep. And then we're going to put the Elite G tank right there so that he can be in the middle of the action and ready to support his guys.
Yep. So I'm going to ask on the... I guess to represent it here in the corner, we've got a star.
Yes.
Is that, has that been painted on, or is that part of the...
So it is etched in the base, and then
fantastic.
basically what our painters did is they just took a little bit of ink and they dropped it in there.
Right.
So you can colorize it to make it a little bit more poppy, but it is like directly etched on the base. So it is pretty visible even without. And the star basically denotes that it is an elite. Elites they cost more, but they have better abilities, and they will support the units around them that are of the same type.
Okay, great.
So after you spawn, because you're out of units to spawn, you could continue to go until you're out of action dice, but you're out of units, so we're just going to stop there with spawning. We go to our movement.
Okay.
When a model moves, it simply moves across the grid on the map equal to its speed. So, for example, if this guy moves 4, he can go 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Okay.
We have limited diagonal movement in Monsterpocalypse. What that means is that you can move diagonal once during a move. So, for example, this guy could go 1, 2, 3, 4. He could go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? He just can't move diagonal more than once.
Right, okay.
So let's go ahead and have this G-Tank advance up and capture this this power point.
Okay.
So these pink zones are called power points. We talked a little bit at the start about how it's important for units to be able to capture power zones.
Right.
And generate power for your monster. These are going to give your monster one of those red dice at the start of its turn for each one you control.
Okay, great.
So when you do your monster activation next, you're going to get a power die for each pink zone that you have a unit on. So we'll move this guy. He gets to go 5 spaces, actually. So he's got more than enough speed to get there, I believe. Yeah. Yep. We're going to have this guy take that power zone.
Okay. So 1, 2.
And then we're going to secure this building. So in addition to generating power dice by controlling power zones, you can also earn power dice by having your units secure buildings. And what this means is that you have 3 of your units adjacent to, so in any square touching a building, and there are no enemy models adjacent to it as well.
Okay, radio.
So we're going to go ahead and have this guy advance into the trees right there.
Okay.
And then we're going to pop this guy just one space up right there. So you have now secured this building. So on your turn, when you power up with your monster, you're going to get 1 power die for each of your pink power zones, and then you're going to get 1 die for each building that you've secured.
Radio. And just to clarify there as well, that's 3 units being the units being the smaller pieces.
Correct. Yes.
So
the monsters don't count. They have more important things than saving buildings. So you can't count them as one of your secured. It has to be your units.
Right.
So at this point, you've moved everything. You could make attacks now. However, you have nothing in range to attack because I don't really have anything on the board. So your turn is effectively over. The last thing that you can do is you can choose to push any remaining action die in your active pool, which is your unit pool, to your inactive pool, which would be your monster pool. So we're going to grab those 3 dice that you have left over and push them to the monsters.
Slide them there.
Perfect. Okay. All right, I'm going to take my turn. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of replicate what you did, spawn a bunch of cool stuff. We're going to move 2 more over. Get that guy there. We'll do 1 more and 1, and I'm going to bump this guy like this.
Right.
All right. And with that in mind, I'm going to start moving. So I'm going to move this guy to here. I'm going to get this guy over to here. And have this guy come up to there. This guy's going to go 4 to here. And then this little crawler is going to go right here. All right. And I'm going to be done.
Right.
Because I don't have anything in range to attack, because my maximum range is 5. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I get 1 diagonal on my move, and line of sight doesn't matter. Yep. So the fact that you're across a building from me, I can either launch it over, I can see you through it, I have my alien senses, they're going to tell me where it is, but you don't have to worry about line of sight. It's all about range. So I'm out of range, so I'm done, so I'm just going to push my dice over. And now we're going to go back to you, and we're going to do a monster turn. Okay. So the first thing you do in a monster turn, you don't spawn, because your monster is obviously on the table. Yep. Instead, you're going to power up. And so, like we've talked about, you're going to get 1 power die from your dice well into your power pool for every power zone you control, which is 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to get 1 power die for each building you've secured, which is 1. Yep. And then we're going to go to our special rules on Defender X. He is a protector. His whole goal is to safeguard the city, so he has a rule called Safeguard. Yep. If you're securing at least 1 building, you gain an additional power die.
Okay.
So you're going to get 1 more power die, so you're going to get a total of 5 power dice from that turn.
Excellent.
It's amazing. We're going to have Defender X go ahead and fire up the jump jets, leap over, and take a shot at Gorgadra.
Okay.
All right?
Great.
So you'll notice on his movement stat card, he has this little dash symbol.
Yep.
That basically means that he has some kind of extra mobility. It's called high mobility in the game. It can mean you fly, you burrow, you climb over things. When a model moves, it cannot move through buildings or enemy monsters.
Okay.
You can always move through friendlies, and monsters can always move over units.
Okay.
If you have high mobility, though, you just jump over that stuff, fly over it, bounce over it, whatever. So we're going to have you go ahead and move right to here.
Okay. So this would be basically
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then one diagonal will get you right there. Yep, 6.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. So then what we're going to do, I'm going to bump up just a little bit because I don't want you to step just yet. So we're going to go ahead and have you shoot with your lasers at Gorgadra.
Okay.
So you're going to look at your blast stat.
Blast,
You're going to see your range is 3, so 3 spaces away. 1, 2, 3. So we're good there.
Nice and close. Yep.
And then the white, to do an attack, you must spend a minimum of 1 action die.
Okay.
So you have to spend 1.
Yep.
That number 7 in the white box, though, tells you that you can spend up to 7 dice when you make an attack.
Okay.
So you could roll a total of 7 action dice. Additionally, just for spending the 1 action die to make the attack, you're going to get a free number of blue dice, the boost dice, listed in the stat, which is 4.
4.
So you can grab your 4 and put them here, and this is your basic pool.
Right.
So you could spend nothing else. You could roll 5 dice. However, my defense is 8. So mathematically, it's probable you could do it, but it's not likely.
Sure.
So we're going to go ahead and throw in a bunch of extra white dice. And then
dice. Yep.
we can go ahead and let's grab 3 red dice.
That sounds like
3
an awesome
power
plan
dice,
as well.
yeah. And we're going to go ahead and roll all of that, and you're going to look for 8.
Okay. Fantastic. So on here we've got ones and 2s.
There's 1 super strike on every dice, which is 2,
Right.
and then otherwise you have 2 single strikes on as well as the super strike on the whites.
Yep.
You have 3 single strikes as well as the super strike on the blue, and then of course you have 4
on the
strikes on the reds.
Okay. Right. Well, let's see how we go. Oh, this is terrible.
I think you got it. No, you're good.
Just-
You're good.
just-
Just on the nose, I think. 3, 6, 8, 9, 10. So
10. Okay.
perfect.
Great.
So lasers spool up. You blast into my alien flesh. I squeal a little bit, and I take a point of damage. So I mark that on my card, and I track down by 1.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, monsters can only take 1 attack on their activation. They can't attack multiple times. So even though you have 3 dice left, you can't do anything with them.
Right.
So at that point, you just move all of your dice back to where they go.
Yep. So because my monster use these,
yep, they go to your unit pool, and then everything else goes back to your
back
well
in here.
because it's all spent.
Yep.
You could push if you wanted to, but we're not going to have you push because we probably expect that Gorgadra is going to be angry about this and get in your face, and we want to be able to respond, later.
Sure thing.
So with that, you're going to end your turn. It's going to come to my turn. I'm going to take my monster turn. I'm going to power up first, just like you did. So I have 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to get 3 power dice, and that's going to be it for me. I'm going to go ahead and advance. I cannot fly, so I have to avoid the buildings, but I can walk through units, including my own. I'm going to get aligned with you. So this means that we're fully base to base. You see how we're snug up against each other. I'm going to grab you with my pincer claws, and I'm going to body slam you into this building.
That doesn't sound good.
Because that was very uncool. Very uncool. I didn't like the lasers. I was very mad. So if I look at my power stat, I must spend at least 1 action die to do the attack. I gain 3 boost dice. I can spend up to 7, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. 3, 6. All right, so there's my 7. Now, you have a rule called disruption.
Yep.
What this probably means in the reality of the game is that you have some kind of hypersonic frequency generator that messes with alien and netherworld physiology and causes me to get a little disoriented.
Okay.
However, in my head, what you have is a bunch of giant amplifiers, and you are blaring classic metal rock like AC/DC and Motley Crue.
Yep.
And Gorgadra's more of a classical lover, so it really upsets him. Effectively, disruption says that if any model makes an attack within 2 spaces of you, they lose a boost die.
Right.
So I go from 4 boost die to 3. I'm going to go ahead and throw in all of my power dice because I really need this to connect. And I'm going to roll, and I'm also looking for an 8. And you'll see that I got a 7 until I do this, and then I got an 8. Oh my gosh. Demos, the miracle of demos, solving my terrible rolling.
Perfect.
All right, so I hit you.
Yep.
You would take 1 damage from the hit.
Okay.
I then, because of a body slam, get to place you basically base to base with me in any other section. So I can put you here, I can put you here, I can put you here.
Right.
Now, I want to get you right into this building.
Yep.
So in addition to the 1 point you took for the hit, You're going to take 1 point from being smashed into the building as the
Okay.
concrete and the steel girders go tearing through your robotic form.
Yep.
And then, because no building is built to code in Monsterpocalypse, it's going to explode in a giant fireball.
Fantastic.
And so we're going to grab that token right there.
There we
We're going
go.
to flip it to its explosion side.
No.
And this is called a hazard. And so it bursts into fire, and you take another point of damage.
Okay, so that's 3
So you've
points
taken
so far.
3 points of damage.
Okay.
Now, if you had started at 8 health points,
Yep.
you would notice on your track, you would go 8, 7, 6, and then we need to go one more. Now, you flip your card. So monsters can take an impressive amount of damage. They have two sides. They have their alpha side, which is what they start on.
Okay.
And then when they take a certain amount of damage, they go to their hyper side. So this is their gold side. This is
Okay.
the point in the movie where the monster has been beaten to crap. He's been thrown into power lines. He's been smashed through buildings. But instead of being all like woozy and ready to drop, he suddenly gets that second wind. He starts to glow.
Right.
Everything's going his way. And now he just comes tearing out and just starts beating serious ass.
Yep.
Um,
Excellent. So yeah, I noticed
So
here I get 5.
yeah,
You get 5.
you'll notice
boost
that
dice.
on hyper, all of your stats typically go up, so you become much more efficient, which allows your monster to take more back-to-back monster turns because you're not spending as many dice,
Yep.
action and power dice to hit. Defender X also gains a sweet rule on his rocket fists, where instead of shooting lasers now, he's just going to shoot his actual fists.
Oh,
and they go
right, okay.
flying around, and they hit you in the face, and they can send monsters flying backwards.
Excellent.
And then he gains energy cycle, which basically makes him more efficient with his action dice. When he rolls at least 2 white dice,
Right.
action dice, he can take one back
Okay.
if it misses. So you're in your hyper form, you're very angry, and everything's going my way. Now, because I destroyed a building, anytime you destroy a building with any attack, whether it's a unit or a monster or whatever, you gain 2 power dice.
Okay. Right.
So that's pretty cool. I get 2 power dice back. Then, because I am a planet eater and I hate the world, I have a rule called Demolisher, and that says that
okay.
every building I destroy, I get an additional power die for.
Right.
So instead of getting 2 for a building, I get 3. So I get 3 power dice back to my pool. I'm going to put everything else away, and then that is my one attack. Now monsters can do one more thing that is unique to them. They can do what's called a step.
Right.
And so every monster can move X numbers spaces based on their speed. So we both move 6.
Right.
However, using action dice, a monster can spend 1 action die to move 1 additional space, and this is
Right.
called a step. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 1, and I'm just going to demonstrate a step, and I'm going to step right to here.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go ahead, and I feel like I need to run away from you, so I'm going to spend 1 more, and I'm going to step right to here.
Okay.
And I'm going to stand right there. And at this point, I'm going to say, well, I could step again, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be done. I'm going to sit on 1 die just to get ready, and then I'm going to end my turn.
Okay.
Okay. So we have one more cool thing to show. We want to show a big throw power attack. So
Okay.
we're going to have you go ahead and
Great.
take a monster turn because we have 3 dice left in our pool.
Yep.
So you're going to power up again.
Yep.
You're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yep.
So
I
you should
already have
grab
2.
5 from there. Yep.
5 from there.
So you now have 7.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to advance a line to me.
Okay. So that would basically be turning here.
Go right there. Perfect. And then we're going to have you do a throw power attack. So
Okay.
to do a throw power attack, you must spend at least 1 white die.
Yep.
And because it's a power attack, you must spend at least 1 red die. Then you get your powers, your boost dice listed on your power stat, which
Okay.
is 4.
4.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you can add as many dice, power dice into the attack as you want, as many white dice as you want. When you do a throw, you can basically place an enemy monster
Yep.
a number of spaces equal to the amount of red dice you rolled. So
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. You need to get at least 5 to send me into this cluster of buildings. We're gonna roll everything though because
I'm
it's
gonna roll
the
it.
big end. Yeah.
It's a demo and
Exactly.
it's a finishing move.
So pick those up and give them a throw.
Okay.
And it looks like we got it with authority because of
Yep.
all those doubles. So you grab me, fly me into the air, and punt me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right to here. I go crashing into those 2 buildings.
Yep.
Both of them explode. So I take 1 point from the hit, 1 point from each building, and then 1 point for each hazard. So I took 5 points of
5
damage
points
in that one hit.
Fantastic.
So huge swing in the damage. I likely go to hyperform and become really angry.
Yep.
You would gain 4 power dice back to your pool for destroying 2 buildings because you
Right.
get 2 power dice for each building.
Yep.
Now Defender X, yes, he does want to save the world, but it is still really awesome when you throw somebody into a building that explodes.
It is.
So he does get amped up from that.
Right.
And that's basically the game. So we go back and forth playing that way,
Right,
taking
okay.
turns, building our power base. and making attacks, trying to knock the other opposing monster out. So the game is built to play with multiple monsters. 2 monsters is kind of our tournament standard.
Okay.
So then you get to start doing really cool combos where one monster throws a monster into a building and the other monster body slams into the building, and setting up those combos makes it very interesting. And then, of course, the units can scale up. So a full 1 monster game, you have 15 units.
Right.
2 monsters is 20, and then 3 monsters is 25.
Yep.
So you start to explore those different kind of synergies and effects within the units, and your units start to basically go after other opponents' power bases. So like one of the things you really want to do in Monpoc is get your units into your enemy's like face so that they can't generate as much power.
Right.
It's all about denying them their
denying
power.
their resources and building up your own resources.
And a single monster game like this typically
Okay.
takes about 30 minutes once you know the game. 2 monster games take about an hour. So it's a very fast, fun, frantic game. There's a lot of physical kind of fun placement of buildings, getting things destroyed, seeing the table alter as the game progresses and things start to get down and dirty.
Excellent. So that's really super cool. Thanks very much for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that was excellent. Throwing you over a building
over a
into
building into two other buildings. Yeah,
that is awesome. That is awesome. But so we talked a little bit earlier. With the mat, you get 6 buildings.
Yeah, so you get 6
right?
of the apartment buildings.
You get all the dice for one side.
All the dice for one side. You get your monster, the 5 units, the stat cards. You get basically 12 hazard tile tokens. You get a couple other tokens as well that you use during play. Because when you build your army, in addition to taking your monsters and your units, you also get to choose up to 12 buildings to bring. And then, like I said, when we start a real game, we actually take turns placing buildings on the map.
Yep.
So the way in which you place your buildings and which buildings you place where, because there are different buildings that come out later that have different abilities rather than just the general apartment building.
Okay.
Starts to matter too. So even if you play on the same map over and over, the game won't really be the same because you're going to be having a different environment in which to fight over.
Okay. Excellent.
And effectively, like I said, it's everything for one player. The box MSRP is for $49.99.
Right.
Comes out 3rd week in September. I think the 21st is our date.
And we've got so it's Defender X and Gorgadra
so
are the first 2.
Defender X and Gorgadra are the first 2 monsters.
Yep.
And following that, we're going to have our Shadow Sun Syndicate and Lords of Thule come out.
Okay.
And so following that, there'll be some buildings, and then the last monsters, the Pterosaurs and the Martian Menace, will be released the month after that. And then there'll be new monsters, new factions, new units and stuff released down the line. So the game will be expandable as it goes forward.
And you're also going to have some organized play kits for
so
stores?
The game will launch with 2 different organized play experiences. We have a league event, which is the Isle of Annihilation League. Effectively, if you go to your retailer, say, I want to play in this league, they can order the kit. It comes with an exclusive Isle of Annihilation map. It's basically this big island city that surrounds a volcano.
Okay.
So one of the cool things about that map is the volcano actually has active rules. So if you throw a monster into the volcano, it takes damage just like you threw it into a building.
Fantastic.
So you've always got that extra damage there. And it's the only way to get that map. So if you want the Isle of Annihilation to expand your play options, and that will be legal for the other OP system that we will have, which is our tournament system, and that's called Crush Hour. The really cool thing about Crush Hour is that those kits will introduce alternative exclusive models.
Okay.
So the first one in that kit is actually a swap for the corporate HQ. It's the Privateer Press HQ building.
Right. Yep. I think
so it's got our it's got our big logo on it. It's this big
fantastic.
towering skin. And if you win the event, effectively, if you go in and you win the tournament, that's your reward. That's your prize.
Awesome.
And those will switch out as the seasons progress. So there'll always be new exclusive models for people to go grab. And it's just a really fun way to kind of have that playable trophy that says, I went to my event, I did really well. Both those are available to retailers through their distributor and Alliance right now,
Alliance,
so they can grab them and be ready to play. The leagues are kind of a 4-week casual event. You just show up, you play games, and you can earn rewards and prizes. And the tournaments obviously are like your classic, show up for a day, do a few rounds, somebody comes out on top, and you're good to go.
Right. Excellent. Oh, that's very cool. So, thanks very much for
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's a blast. I always have fun.
Yeah, that was always great. Big monsters and big robots.
Exactly. Like I said,
throwing models around.
Every time I blow up a building, my 7-year-old self gets a little squee of joy, and I'm just like, yes, this is what I wanted all my life.
That's absolutely fantastic. So if you want to check out Monsterpocalypse, 3rd week of September, you said?
Yep.
So launching with the first 2 kits. Head into your local store. Make sure they're doing pre-orders. Let them know that they can order it from Alliance and get stuck into destroying cities.
Yeah, absolutely. So
fantastic.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Cool.
It was a pleasure.
No, thanks.
watching Game Trade Media. Make sure to leave us a like and click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new content.